everybody, and welcome to Groovy Movie Makeup. Today I'm going to dive into one of my favorite movies, Guillermo Del Toro's gothic masterpiece, Crimson Peak. Before I get into it, you might be wondering why I am Thomas Sharp's ghost right now. Well, my channel is both for movie discussion and for movie makeup, so if makeup is something that interests you, I filmed a tutorial for this look, which I will link in the description box. The director Guillermo Del Toro is one of my favorite directors for obvious reasons. He merges the genres of fantasy horror into these wondrous stories that take you on these amazing adventures. As an outcast, he has always loved monsters in literature and has always identified with them. His movies make us re-examine monsters, not as menacing creatures, but as misunderstood beings. He is certainly an idol for all of us freaks and weirdos. I'm such a fan of his that I visited his exhibit in the AGO in Toronto, which was an exhibit of all of his horror movie memorabilia, both from his movies and from movies that he's a fan of. It was really cool, so if you're interested in that, I have a bunch of photos from it. There was stuff from Crimson Peak as well as all of his other movies, so stay tuned till the end of the video if you want to check them out. Now let's dive into my favorite Del Toro film, the hauntingly beautiful Crimson Peak. This movie made me fall in love with gothic horror. Not only is the story a tragic masterpiece, but the imagery in the film is absolutely astonishing. His use of a practical set for the estate of Crimson Peak really makes the story more rich, and you could see how much thought was put into every single detail of that house to make it what it was. Speaking of imagery, Del Toro is a master at using symbols, colors, costumes, and characters to represent deeper meanings and themes. These hidden gems throughout the film give the audience a better understanding of the characters and the emotions that they are going through. But if you're not a crazy analytical fiend like me, some of these things might be overlooked when you're watching the movie. But I believe that noticing these things really makes for a richer movie viewing experience and makes you understand a whole lot more about the story. Now let's dive in. The true nature of the heroes and villains in the story are plainly laid out in their costume design. Edith and Alan are both blonde hair and are always wearing warm, light tones, such as yellow or white, or covered in colorful embroidery. Lucille and Thomas, on the other hand, are on the opposite side of the spectrum, often wearing cool colors, mostly black, but they don't really pass the threshold of wearing navy blue, green, or red. And they both have black hair. These costumes foreshadow the purity of the heroes and the evil of the villains that is revealed in the end of the movie. After Lucille and Thomas are dead, even the color of their ghosts represent their true nature. Thomas was corrupted, however, in the end, he did truly love Edith and died trying to save her. So his entire ghost is white. Lucille's ghost, however, is completely shrouded in black lace, representing the pure evil that resides inside of her. These costumes coincide with the most prominent symbols in the movie, which are the beautiful butterflies and the black moths. They are first introduced when Edith and Lucille are in the park looking upon all of the dying butterflies. This is what they say.
They're dying. They take their heat from the sun, and when it deserts them, they die.
That's sad.
No, it's not sad, Edith. It's nature. It's a savage world of things dying or eating each other right beneath our feet.
Surely there's more to it than that.
Beautiful things are fragile. At home, we have only black moths. Formidable creatures, to be sure, but they lack beauty. They thrive on the dark and the cold.
What do they feed on?
Butterflies, I'm afraid.
So in that first line, when she says, when the sun deserts them, they die, she's talking about the reliance that each characters have on other characters within the movie. For Edith, in the beginning, after the death of her mother, her father is all she has, and without him she would have nothing. But conveniently, Thomas was there to be her something that she latched onto. From there, Thomas is truly all she has, and without him she would have no family left. She even says the words, "You're all I have," later on in the film, and the audience could see that that line makes Thomas feel guilty. Lucille completely relies on Thomas as he's all she has in the world, and she is completely in love with him to the point of obsession. It is an unhealthy relationship because she is dependent on him and needs him in order for her to feel whole. Once he betrays her, she kills him because she is nothing without his devotion. Lastly, Thomas becomes reliant on Edith. Her warmth is something foreign in his troubled life, and her love is like the sun transforming him from a black moth into a beautiful butterfly. He says to her, "I feel as if a link exists between your heart and mine, and should that link be broken, either by distance or by time, then my heart would cease to beat and I would die." Once Edith learns his true intentions is when Thomas is killed, much like how the butterflies die without the sun. When Lucille says, "No, it's not sad, Edith, it's nature. It's a world of everything dying and eating each other right beneath our feet," this is talking about the hidden evil of the Sharps. Later I'm going to discuss the symbolism of their house, but it is evident that the basement of their house contains the darkest secrets about the Sharp family. It also represents how the evil was buried in a hidden place that no one could see in plain sight. Edith was ignorant of their horrific past. Meanwhile, all of their secrets were literally hidden beneath her feet. Next, Lucille says, "Beautiful things are fragile. At home we only have black moths. Formidable creatures, to be sure, but they lack beauty. They thrive on the dark and cold." This is an obvious reference to Edith being the fragile, beautiful butterfly and Lucille being the formidable moth, thriving on the dark and cold and lacking inner beauty. Lastly, Lucille explains that the moths feed on butterflies. This is showing how the Sharps were feeding off of Edith and taking advantage of her innocence and using her for her money. The black moths are also featured heavily in the house whenever Edith is having a dark encounter. The moths and butterflies further represent the recurring theme of being trapped versus being free. When everything is revealed and Edith is dying and Lucille has her trapped in the house, she steals a locket of Edith's hair and braids it. To hold the hair down, she uses a cage that contains a single yellow butterfly. At this moment in the movie, Edith is trapped in many ways. She's trapped by the Sharps in the sense that she's being forced to sign away her fortune to them, and she's trapped physically because the poison and fall down the stairs has drastically weakened her and the snow outside is literally trapping all of them inside the house. The Sharps are emotionally trapped as well. Both of the siblings went through a terrible upbringing because of their apathetic parents. They were trapped in the attic by themselves, forced to rely on each other. From then on, Thomas became mentally trapped by his sister. Years of her influence and sexual abuse turned him into her property, and he believes that he must protect her at all costs, even if it means murdering all those people, including their mother. Thomas was mentally becoming free through his relationship with Edith, but of course, this is prevented by his sister. When Lucille snaps, he tries to calm her down by suggesting that they could move away and finally be free of the house, proving that their upbringing and that house has made them feel suffocated. Speaking of the house, the different levels of the house end up representing different levels of the mind. The attic was the Sharps' childhood. Though they were trapped in there, they built a little world of safety and comfort within each other and were relatively happy. They were able to escape their terrible parents. The main levels of the house are what Edith sees. She sees Lucille and Thomas in plain sight and thinks she knows them. It's the facade the siblings put on to try and appear normal. Meanwhile, like I previously stated, the basement represents the hidden evil, darkness, and decay that resides within the Sharps. This dark side was not obvious and was only found by Edith with the help of the ghosts. The look of the basement with the vats also mirrored the scene in the beginning in the morgue after Edith's father's death, further implying that the basement is a place of death. To further support this, the red clay of Crimson Peak represents the bloodshed that occurs in the story as well as the hidden evil of the Sharps. In the attic, there is no clay. On the main levels, the clay is seeping through the floorboards, representing that there is something hidden underneath. In the basement, there is the most clay constantly flowing down the walls and within the vats. The clay is most prominent closer to the climax. As winter settles in, the clay rises and appears on the snow like blood. This starts happening when all of the dark secrets are coming to light. The harsh crimson against the pure white also represents the corruption of innocence of the Sharps to Edith. This imagery is also seen when the father is gruesomely murdered by Lucille in the white bathroom and his blood is flowing down the drain. This is also seen when Edith begins to cough blood on her pillow because of the poison that Lucille's been giving her. It's also seen in the end when Thomas's white ghost is still bleeding bright scarlet blood. Also, in the end, after the fight with Lucille, Edith is covered in blood, mostly on her hands, showing how her innocence has been corrupted by this horrifying experience. The main theme of this movie is encapsulated in the ghosts. The ghosts represent past events that leave a scar on the living, forever reminding them of that time or place. We first see this with Edith's mother. She's the first ghost Edith experiences and shows how Edith will never be the same after her passing, and a part of her soul will always be tethered to that tragic time. The past also follows the Sharps, as it contains all of the dark secrets they are trying to hide from Edith. For example, the murder of their mother and Thomas's past wives. Edith discovers their true nature with the help of the ghosts, who guide her in digging up their dark past, since those ghosts were created by the Sharps' evil ways. This theme is all summed up in the final monologue, which goes as follows.
Ghosts are real. This much I know. There are things that tie them to a place, very much like they do us. Some remain tethered to a patch of land, a time and date, the spilling of blood, a terrible crime. But there are others that hold on to an emotion, a drive, loss, revenge, or love. Those, they never go away.
That concludes the major symbols found throughout the film, but there are also some interesting little tidbits I noticed. For instance, when Thomas first brings Edith into the house, he says, "What do you think? Does it look the part?" And Edith says, "It does, although it's even colder inside than out." This is referring to Thomas looking the part of the devout husband. Meanwhile, on the inside he has cruel intentions. Also, due to his profession, Thomas is referred to as a man that feeds off land that others work for him, a parasite with a title. In fact, it is later proven that he truly is a parasite who latches onto wealthy women and tricks them into marrying him in order to take everything they have. Something else Guillermo used was the colors of the locations. Much like the costumes, New York is always warm-toned with a sunny orange cast over it, representing the happy life that Edith has to leave behind when she goes to Cumberland, where the filter is much less saturated and cold to reflect the menacing circumstances. Overall, this movie covers many themes. But in the end, the main drives of the character are love. When Thomas is criticizing Edith's book, he says this.
It's absurdly sentimental. The aches that you describe with such earnestness, the pain, the loss. You clearly haven't lived at all. In fact, you only seem to know what other writers tell you.
That's enough!
You insist on describing the torments of love when you clearly know nothing about them. I'm not done yet! What do you dream of? A kind man? A pure soul to be redeemed? A wounded bird you can nourish? Affection. Affection has no place in love, Edith. I advise you to return to your ghosts and fancies. The sooner the better. You know precious little of the human heart, or love, or the pain that comes with it. You're nothing but a spoiled child.
That line talks about how Edith is innocent and perfect and knows nothing of the torments of love. Later in the film, Edith's love for Thomas leads her down a dark path and takes away her innocence. Thomas's conflict of love between Edith and his sister tears his soul apart. The tormented love between Thomas and Lucille is what drives them to be such evil people. And Thomas's betrayal in the end drives Lucille to a state of absolute insanity. It shows how being so hopelessly in love with someone can torment your soul and drive you to do things for them that you never thought you were capable of doing. Thomas is such a complex character, proving to be both a hero and a villain. Do you end up liking Thomas and feeling sorry for him in the end? Or do you hate him for all of his evil doings? Do you think Lucille is to blame for all of this, or do you think that Thomas was also a major part? Let me know in the comments. Also, if there's anything that I missed, I would love to hear other hidden meanings and symbols found in this incredible movie. Please let me know. Since you've made it this far, you might as well watch my tutorial, and for more, be sure to subscribe to my channel and follow my Instagram. See you next time!